Uranium stocks today started off pretty good, but they pulled back with everything, the overall energy sector. We're going to talk about some new government bills that specifically will help uranium, especially uranium producers in America. Just came out today. We're going to talk about the overall market, the government spending bill for uranium, $1.5 billion. This could be approved this week. It should, or else the government is going to shut down. We're going to talk about the overall uranium sector. It's been about a week. I've been every day on Discord. We've been doing some day trading. I have been buying some new stocks, a couple uranium stocks, a couple orders. So I've been busy, but I am coming back to YouTube. Miss you guys. Thank you so much for the support. If you see behind me, this is actually my new uranium behind me. It is glowing. It is radioactive. Pretty cool looking. But we're going to first talk about uranium prices. Now, uranium prices are up today, still about $49.50. Now, if we look back last year when we had this big run, uranium prices were only about $44 around this time. So 44 on the ask. So we're actually still a lot higher, right? We were at $44 around the 27th. And the day before that was about $45. So you can see the volatility in this. But if we go, to today, uranium prices $49.50. So this is kind of where we're at. Now, really quickly, I want to show you that within a couple weeks last year, when we started this seasonality in October, which it might not be the exact same, but you can see uranium prices on October 11th were $37.50 on the ask. So within the 2 days, it went from $37.50 last year on October 11th to the 13th, which was about $49. You can see the big jump. So it is very possible we see a similar move this year with volume coming back into the market. There is a lot coming up this week for uranium. A lot of things I'm watching. So the US government, the stopgap bill, it's passed by the House. It needs to pass the Senate, which is going to be tomorrow. And this bill includes that $1.5 billion for LEU and HALEU. Right. So UXC, they did say that they did not know if $1 billion was even left in the spot market. And this is something that you got to keep an eye on. The US government could hit the ground running, buying up some uranium. And they obviously have the funding there for it. We don't know exactly yet who also in the US, these US producers got these contracts for the uranium that they were already buying. But it does need to pass the Senate, and then it'll be signed by the president really quickly. If not, by the end of this week, the U.S. government will, on October 1st, not be working, right? So they have to have these new budgets. When I was in the Coast Guard, multiple times we're not paid. Like, we were literally active duty, going out, risking our lives, 24/7, 3-4 days a week, going on deployment as well. The people on deployment, they were not getting paid out there, right? This is over my career. It's happened multiple times. So we could see this, the stopgap, this is what will fill it. But we can see possibly the government going a week or two without the funding request here approved. And this is obviously supplemental. They want to push a lot more. And it would be nice to see even more for HALEU. But the big thing today, there is a new bill, HR 8981. Now, the full text has not been out on this, but it's to streamline hard rock mining permits on federal lands, support technological and scientific advancement for mineral development, expand the mining workforce, track global supply chain, and this is the big one, strengthen domestic refining and processing capacity, and for other purposes. And the thing is, this bill, this is a House bill, and it actually does have 5 co-sponsors. So this is actually pretty nice to see very early. Now, a lot of these bills, we're starting to have the new fiscal year start. And I think a lot of things are going to start to kick off with these bills that, we've been following, especially for uranium, anything related. This is big for the U.S. uranium sector. We're looking at that enrichment, that $4.3 billion from the Biden administration for enrichment for uranium. So this is going to help streamline the process. Now, if you've ever seen how long it takes for some mines to get up, especially in the US for permitting, it's crazy. I actually did a video with Congress when they had a hearing. We watched it live in the Discord. All these processes, it was a flow chart basically of how long it takes. And these mines, a lot of them were still not, had not had permits. Now, the great thing about a lot of US producers, they do have permits. UEC has a bunch of permits, stocks like that. And Energy Fuels. The thing about this bill, if you see here, the committees, they have this going to a ton of committees. So a lot of eyes are going to be on this. And especially because a lot of the people on these committees do vote for other bills that are already further along for uranium that might bring more eyes and views. We know that there's a lot of talk for banning Russian uranium enrichment. There's a lot of talk for this domestic uranium supply. So it is good to see more bills, especially for nuclear power. This is going to be really good for the overall industry. And I think that you're going to see bills like this get passed a lot sooner, especially after this new fiscal year, I think, starts. And there was an article here about it. And basically, the unfortunate reality is that the United States has lost its competitive edge in the development of nuclear energy. So this is the representative. For the U.S. to keep pace and our allies and rivals to be ahead of them, we must invest in nuclear power and build up our capacity to control all steps of the nuclear fuel cycle. So this is going to, really revamp this enrichment side that we haven't really seen. Now, China is really doing this. So China opened this new grid line in the Fujian province, this nuclear power plants. They have 4 new nuclear reactors there under construction. And there's 19, Chinese reactors under construction. There's 43 awaiting permits and 166 announced. So the U.S. really needs to get ahead of this. Now, this is going to really push, I think, the U.S. government. We see the critical minerals list. That's the big thing for uranium being added to the critical minerals list. It's going to really help a lot for the U.S. government to buy more uranium and fund the process for the total enrichment cycle from mining in the ground to fuel in a reactor, which is a very complicated process. Now, I did say this, uranium is getting closer to another big run. So investors are capitulating. I don't know if you've seen, a lot of people have been, capitulating. People have been selling. And, uranium stocks are oversold. We're going to look at the charts here on those in a second. And we're still higher than last year. October is right around the corner. We got refueling starting. Really think that we're going to see more buyers in uranium. The pound overseas has been the lowest ever right now. So a lot of money is flowing back into the stock market, I think. And, commodities, they're beaten down as well, energy commodities. Long-term contracting is already starting. We're already starting to see this nuclear fuel revival. UEC broke below the trend line that we've been seeing. And that whenever it does, it usually has a violent move with catalysts on the upside. Every single time it's touched or broke that trend line here, long-term, we've seen a violent move up, okay? We're talking usually 100% move on these up moves, right? Within a shorter period of time, 134% here. And we're still pulled back. I think we're getting close to, we saw the July prices, those lows that we saw, a lot of those reached 100% moves since a lot of the US producers are about 50%. But Cameco is still leading the overall uranium market. But if we're looking back, we're back all the way back here. We can go back to September of last year, UEC prices, almost around the exact same price, okay? Exact same price almost before we started to take off in October. Boom, the high we got there. We took off when uranium prices started to take off. That October 12th, that was the day, right? And look at that, within a very short amount of time, 100% move on UEC, right? So this is how the stock moves. And this is why, I've been buying more of this stock. I really do like the U.S. producers. This stock did not even have the hundreds of millions of pounds that they had during this time. Uranium prices were lower. And when the stock price jumped up that day, the uranium price, the stock obviously rocketed as well. We see sometimes 20% moves in these. But this was when the price of uranium just jumped up, right? Very quickly. And the thing is, uranium prices can move very fast. And with less supply in the market, we've seen even bigger moves for some uranium stocks, right? In all the uranium stocks, a lot of the producers still look about the same. But Cameco, we are still leading the market. Now, the overall market, we can kind of see uranium stocks, they didn't do too bad compared to some stocks out there in the overall market. Some stocks were down a bunch, you can see here. But uranium stocks, they started off, like I said, good. Sprott Physical Uranium Trust still did close green, still got to close that gap. But commodities just got destroyed. We see gold and silver. I think a lot of people are really capitulating in a lot of these minerals here. But we've seen crude oil down almost 6%. And, for the year, uranium actually is still up for the year. For year over year, it's 12%. But for anyone investing in the last month or even the last year in some of these energy commodities, they've been pretty beaten down. And, just the month, you can see some of these just insane. I don't think this is going to stick around, prices like this, as we go into winter. But, you know, we really got to watch this 1.5 billion for this uranium. This will be, like I said, in the stopgap bill, this request, this is going to be coming in very soon. This is some more news articles on this. The White House would send the Department of Energy $1.5 billion to set up a reliable LEU HALEU supply. So we don't know how quickly this is going to come into the market. They already got that $700 million with the bill already. Now this is the actual wording. So $1.5 billion to remain available until expended for the acquisition and distribution of low enriched uranium, LEU, and HALEU. Okay, so we don't even really have a HALEU production going just yet. LEU, the company, will have that soon. That stock is actually pulled back like crazy. And, you know, I think it was actually today, LEU was still up about 4%. It's not 1.5 billion for that stock, LEU, but this is for the full supply to be able to buy LEU and HALEU. Now, one of the last things we can look at, I want to look at the overall uranium stock market. Like I said, we've seen Cameco is still leading about 10% for the year. Since July, we're still up in a lot of these. That major pullback we had in July, we're still not down to that lows for a lot of these stocks. We are in UEC. So UEC is actually cheaper than it was in July. And remember, this stock moved over 50% very quickly. But since spot, it's still up 58%. So this has been one I have added to as well. I'm looking to start a really big position on a swing. Now, long term, I think if uranium prices go up, I'm probably going to be holding these a lot longer. This stock in particular, you know, like for tax purposes, holding over a year in the US, you pay less taxes. But if you make a certain amount anyways in the US, you know, you're already going to be paying that max tax. So it really, you know, depending on whoever you are, how much you have in a lot of these stocks in the US, a lot of people like to hold over a year, even if the stock's down. They're going to do better long term. And with me, I like day and swing trading. The volatility in these is just ridiculous. You've seen some of these uranium stocks, what they are, not just year to date, but since last year, since those 52-week highs, it has been insane. You can see some of these are pushing 80% now down. 84 for standard uranium. I really feel bad for them. I mean, 84%, you're looking, you know, when you get to 90%, there's a 900% upside just to get back to break even, right? So some of these stocks are just getting ridiculous. Now I'm very, very heavy cash. I've not started long-term positions just yet that I will be holding, you know, long-term, a year plus, because I still think the market overall is going to be very volatile. And I think it presents a better opportunity, right, for day and swing trading. The volatility in these, if I can get 100% move and start a big position, but cash out and then the stock pulls back 50%, you know, this is crazy. Like 100% move, you double your money on it. And then you can literally pretty much get shares for free, the same positions. That's what I'm looking to do. You know, obviously running this YouTube channel, covering uranium for the past couple of years, it is interesting to look back and see how much the stocks are still up, right? Since we started covering them. Like if you're still holding long-term in a lot of these, you know, you're still doing phenomenal. Some of these you're up 1,000%. Paladin, I bought this. So if I held my shares still, this, by the way, this is when I bought every single one of these stocks I had bought, right? At this time, March of 2020. I think it was like the second week of March. But you can see all of the stocks are pretty much still up since then. Now, Standard Uranium was one that wasn't even listed then, and I had not bought that stock as well. And Alligator Energy as well, I think that one's been very volatile. That was one of the only ones, I think, that has not gone up since then. But you can see all these stocks, 1,000% for Global Atomic. I did buy every single one of these stocks at that price. So I would be up, you know, still 1,400% in Paladin from the time that I bought it. Now, I didn't buy like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth in each of these stocks. It was small positions, usually $10,000. I put a lot. I went all in. When the bottom started, I went all in all uranium stocks. Now, most of the, you know, like producers, I had put, you know, a little more than $10,000 usually during that time. And I actually started day and swing trading them a little after that. I know I put over $100,000 in Energy Fuels during that time when it was around $1. And I did really well on that. You know, it actually, you know, ran up as much as 1,000%. So stocks out there, they do pull back. Look at Energy Fuels. Now it's not up 1,000%. It's up 500%, right? So you can literally cut your gains in half. But if you can time that top, which is very hard, most people can't do Encore Energy still up 1,000%. This was up a lot more as well because it's down 56% from the 52-week high. All these are, right? Everything is down. 60%, 63%, down 51% in UEC since that 52-week high, which the 52-week high was just back in April. Same thing for Cameco. It's down 23% since that high. But that's kind of where we're at. And with me, with my strategies, these are some of the things if you're new to the channel, this is what I do. I ignore the noise, right? I have a strategy and I stick to it, right? That's what works. So this day in swing trading is what is working for me, okay? And I trade what is being traded and I invest in what is currently hated. So uranium is really what was hated at the time. That's what I invested in. I ignore the noise, track my wins and losses. This is really big. Protect my profits and cut losses quickly. Now with uranium, I don't usually have a stop loss that gets triggered very quickly like I would another stock because we see 10%, 20% moves pretty quickly in that. Now stocks have sense memory. So just because a stock chart is a certain way does not mean it's going to trade that way. You got to really look at the history of the stock. I keep winners and get rid of these losers. I'm not afraid to be down in the stock. That's a big one here. I'm not afraid. And I never margin a stock I don't have the money for. I pay all cash for these, right? I never marry a stock or a sector. I keep the door open though. Diversification, in my opinion, does not diversify you. It dilutes you, especially in uranium. Just one big uranium pie. And if management's not invested, neither should my money for the most part. I have lowball bids and sometimes these moon sell orders that I place in order for this volatility. Sometimes they trigger and I remove emotions. I think of these investments in uranium and swing and day trades really as part ownership in the company. Now, long-term, I know, especially uranium producers, I know where they're going. So if I get in the stock and it goes down, I can look back to that. And this is kind of my strategy. I can look back and say, okay, this stock, I'm not really worried. The overall market can go down. Yeah, I'm going to lose some of my profits, but I still know where things are going. That helps me really remove the emotions. Now, I move funds and ideas to these sectors like uranium that are working and they will be needed soon. Uranium prices have to go up, guaranteed. It might take a while, but they're going to go up. And stocks, they trade differently than others. Like I said earlier, they react to this volume differently. Now, I look for the trends in these stocks and I really study them. And I know uranium stocks very well. That's why I really love taking a sector, becoming an expert, and really knowing the fundamentals and technicals in that and how they trade. And then, you can do really well. And there are people that have been like in my Discord that have turned accounts from $60,000 into over $1 million in profits. And this is not typical, but if you are in volatile sectors and if you want to look at it this way, if you really are gambling in some of these, you can really do really well. But if you know the overall sector and you know how it works and trades, then you have one step up of everyone else, right? Invest in management teams that you would start a business with and those that have done it before. Now, John Borshoff, Amir from UEC, these are people that I really do like, their management style. They're totally different people, totally different type styles, but stocks like that, I really do think the management's doing really well, especially with promotion. Now, trust yourself, perform a stock MRI. This is the biggest thing. And call management or investor relations. Read old annual reports, compare them to current ones, zoom out on the technicals. And this really helps. Now, these long-term investors, a lot of you are. There's nothing wrong with it. The only risk you have is these natural disaster events. And you're usually not plugged in the market daily. These are some negative things. You have less cash to take advantage of when the market corrects overall. But you do usually have the highest compounding returns. You don't have the stress of looking at it, the markets daily. Now, the fastest returns profits obviously is day trading, but it is risky because if there's not enough liquidity to get out of the stock. Also, there's obviously, especially in the US, short-term capital gains tax. But if you're making money, if you're making profits, that should be the least of your worries, especially in a market when the NASDAQ overall past year looks like this. You should be pretty happy if you're making profits. And I see this time and time again. New investors are worried about taxes and things of that nature. You got to call your tax professional. But if you're a seasoned investor and you're day and swing trading, you're making profits. These base hits, they add up. People in our Discord, I think I've showed you guys hundreds of thousands of dollars profits by taking swing trades, like very small base hits. We're talking sometimes $1,000 a day on a stock, but they have massive positions. But with the liquidity in a lot of the bigger uranium stocks, you can usually get out very quickly. And it's very nice, rewarding to see. Now we're on the NASDAQ. If you want to look back, we're getting back to that June low, right? here. And then we can look back. The last time we saw that before was back in October, November. So this is what the market, and you got to remember too, if we see a breakout in the NASDAQ, this was when uranium stocks started to take off too. And uranium stocks got pulled down in September with the overall market. So did the spot price. We're still ahead of that. But if you look here, that's when the seasonality really started to kick in. The NASDAQ started to take off during this time as well. And look how much the NASDAQ actually went up, 48%, right? Within a couple month period. There's a possibility, if everyone's a bear now and everyone thinks that they can make money shorting stocks, I think that the market, even with the way things are going, could still have another big run in it. Now, I've said during this time, I said that the market back here needed a recovery. The overall stock market was overvalued, and it still took off, right? This was around the time that happened. We had a bunch of drops, but it still took off. And finally, we got the correction we needed. And we're still up, right? Since the drop in 2020, we're still up pretty high, right? We're still in the fall of last year. So is it a horrible thing? Now, a lot of these stocks, this shows the NASDAQ, the Dow's probably very similar. Now, a lot of investors in the overall market got in stocks right here, and they've just been obliterated. So are we going to see a recovery? This candle here, this is pretty crazy, for the weekly. If we look at the monthly, it even looks worse, right? Last time we've seen something like this, January, March 2020. So this obviously we saw circuit breakers, halts. We haven't seen that really recently, but it is possible we do see that. That is why I still have a great amount of cash. If you look at uranium, it's pulled back. This is on the monthly. It's been such a volatile month, but you can see if you're day and swing trading, the amount of percentage in this, it's close to 43% there. But these candles here, especially these red ones and even the green ones, look at the volatility on the monthly. That is crazy. 50% in the stock move. That's why I love day and swing trading. Now, if you guys want some of this uranium, you can get a discount right here. This is a great gift idea. It's actually cheaper than I paid for these 2 uranium cubes. And you got to use my discount code. It'll be in the link in the description below. You got to copy and paste the code and then follow the link. I know a lot of people were asking about it. I worked a deal out with the company that you could get a really good discount, and great in time for this uranium bull market for Christmas. If you're a uranium investor, and no matter what, if uranium goes up and down, it'll be a good memento for you to have. It's really cool. It does glow, as you can see back there. But I'm not worried overall. I think that the overall market, has really had a big sell-off, right? And we've seen uranium stocks do the same and follow suit. But I'm not worried long-term for uranium stocks. I think that there's a lot of money in the volatility to be made. So if that's your thing, come with us, join our Discord. We got a free link down below as well. You can check it out. It really is the place to be right now. It's my uranium Bloomberg terminal is what I call it. It's where all the data is. That's where I've been the last week, by the way. I really missed you guys, and I'm going to continue to make these videos. Let me know below and give me your like number. Should I continue making daily update videos? Should I do live videos for uranium, the overall market? Did you take advantage of the volatility in these uranium stocks? Have you bought anything yet as well?